Hello and welcome to an exclusive hour-long programme with me, Alex Belfield, talking to, well, a genius. A gorgeous star, a beauty, a talent, a personality. She is, of course, Fern Britton. How are you?
Well, much better after that lovely introduction, thank you. Have you noticed, though, I'm sitting here in my tartan slippers to keep my feet nice and warm and comfortable because I'm about to go to Cuba.
Well, I think you look delicious, and I won't have a word said against you, because what you are is funny, you're a personality, you're natural, you're one of us. You've created this thing that makes people want to like you and want to watch you. That's really clever.
Oh, Alex, that's very kind. I haven't tried to create anything. It's what I am, and that's that. And so, but thank you. I don't know what to say, but thank you very much.
May I say as well, you're looking gorgeous and delicious. How did this happen?
I can't cope with that. Well, today has happened because I've been in makeup since 8 o'clock this morning. No, don't look quite so gorgeous when I haven't got all this makeup on. And I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm 51. I'm doing the best I can. That's all I can tell you about that.
Basically saying, I'm gorgeous and will you marry me? That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I will, Alex. As soon as I'm free from that Phil, that's no problem.
Well, the two Phils, really, because that's the thing about your life. You've got a double life, really. You've got your private life, which is amazing now, and you've got your TV life, which is also amazing.
I'm very lucky, absolutely. To have an on-screen husband, Philip, is just lovely. And, you know, we only met each other properly for the first time 6 years ago, and we had to, you know, create a partnership together, which was no problem at all. We just fell into it straight away. We have the same sense of humour. He's filthy. I enjoy filthy humour. He's a great partner to work with, and I enjoy working with him. And then to go home and have my own husband, who is, well, like all husbands, he can sometimes disappear just as you need him, but most of the time he is the most fantastic man, and I couldn't wish to share my life with anyone more wonderful.
I think the reason this morning is so successful now is you make it look so easy, and you seem completely at home, whether it's working, not working, whether something goes right or whether it goes wrong. That's kind of hard to do, isn't it, in TV, when there's so many people involved?
Yeah, it is, but I mean, I do look back and think that when I started in 1980, we weren't allowed to let mistakes show. You have to cover up. If there was anything that had gone wrong, cover it up immediately. Don't let the audience know there's been a mistake. But the audience, of course, are very, very sophisticated. They understand television. They know how it works. They make their own videos at home. They know how to put them on the computer. They know, you know, so they're very, very sophisticated viewers. And if you've made a mistake, the best thing is to go, look at that. That really wasn't supposed to happen. And when we say something silly, you know, doing live shows, talking, stupid things fall out of your lips before you realise what they are. And so we laugh at those, of course. And I had a lovely letter the other day from somebody saying, oh, please don't stop the innuendos. They do make us laugh. Innuendos? I don't know what you're talking about.
You're into Radio 4, you listen to that in the car coming in and then when you're here. Yet you do TV that's for the masses, and you're one of them.
Alex, Radio 4 should be for the masses. Everyone should
be, but it really isn't, is it?
Well, I don't agree with you. Everybody likes gardening, don't they? Everyone's into you and yours. Everybody loves the Archers.
But if you look demographically, and we don't want to get too much into this, it is the higher end, isn't it? Let's face it.
Well, it shouldn't be. Anybody who's frightened of, like, the opera and things like that, don't be. Go and have a look at it. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, then it's rubbish. I don't like opera. I don't understand it. I quite like the ballet, but I don't really understand it. I quite like some books, but there's an awful lot I haven't read and don't understand. I hate Shakespeare, you know, but that's fine. Just have a go, see if you like it.
Well, I've never understood opera because it's where somebody gets stabbed instead of dying, they sing. It's very odd, isn't it?
Well, I like musicals. You see, that's different. Musicals, people get stabbed and still sing. Look at, you know, Blood Brothers, they get shot, you know. I don't mind that. But I don't understand it in a different language with a lady who's supposed to be a 19-year-old sylph and she's a 60-year-old harridan. I don't get that at all.
And my point was about all of this is that this morning tries to make everything digestible. And even with the politics, and the great thing is you get the best politicians, the biggest stars, and you just make it understandable. And that's really what you're about, isn't it?
Yes, I hope so. Again, that's taken me a long time to understand, because when I was a young cub reporter and you're suddenly met with an MP and the MP sees you just as a little morsel that he can chew up and spit out, and you're terrified. And then as you get older, and that's another thing about, once you're past 40, 50, you just think, no one is going to scare me anymore. I don't need to take any old rubbish from anybody ever again. Nearly said something rude there, but I won't. And so you have to look at these politicians or anybody in power or anyone who you feel is somehow superior to you and think, no, you are a human being. You are only a human being, and you must lie in bed at night and worry yourself sick about certain things. You still get stomach upsets and snotty noses. You are the same as me.
We're back on your favourite local radio station. It's Alex talking to Fern, and that's nice, isn't it? When you say Fern and everybody knows who that is.
Well, do you know what? It saves ink when I have to sign my name. I don't have to put the Britton bit, I just do Fern.
It must be fun being you, because when I read your book, you've had highs and lows, and here you are today, and when the people come in the studio, they know who you are, probably before you know them. That's a nice feeling, isn't it?
God, I hadn't thought of that, Alex, actually, because I do know a lot about the people before they come in, because our researchers are wonderful. And we get in the car in the morning and not together, obviously. Philip's from his house and I'm from my house. But we work on our scripts in the cars and given a driver to drive in. I mean, we have a fantastic life. But I sit in the back of the car and read through all the research notes so I know everything about that person before I've met them. And then they come in and they go, oh, hello, I'm Mrs. Spriggs. And I go, yes, I know, and I know what's happened. Do you? Yes, I do. So I probably know more about them than they did know about me. But now I've written the book, more people will know more about me, because I haven't always, well, I haven't really ever told much about myself, because I don't like doing interviews very much, but you're different.
Is this okay? I mean, would you rather it be the other way around and you asking the questions?
Yes. Yes, I would, because asking the questions is a position of confidence because you know roughly what the answer might be. But when you are asked the question, you're not quite sure what your answer is going to be.
One of the things I noticed right at the beginning is your day starts very early and then you've got an hour and a half drive into work. Does that explain why you only do 4 days on this morning? Because that's a lot, isn't it? 3 hours in a car a day.
Yeah, it's actually sometimes nearly 4 hours, depends on the traffic. But I do 4 days a week because I have 4 children and I need 1 day at home during the week just to catch up with my domestic stuff. And the kids, you know, they're approaching GCSEs. One of them's just gone up to big school for the first time. The other one's approaching where we are. We happen to have 11 plus. She's approaching 11 plus. So there's an awful lot going on. And I mean, at the weekend, this weekend, suddenly it was, can you rustle me up an Egyptian costume, please? Because we're doing Egyptian Day. Oh, yes, certainly. You know, rustle up the Egyptian costume. Write all, because obviously all the post during the week builds up. Got a lot of post that's to do with work and to do with things as well as social life. I mean, there is no social life. Unfortunately, my friends, they must be very annoyed with me because they've been pushed on the back burner because I've been having to do everything else. And you and I, when we first met, was saying about blooming mobile phones, texts, emails, Blackberries. If somebody calls you or leaves a message or sends an email and you haven't responded instantly, they think somehow you are slighting them. And think, no, darling, it's not that. It's just that there are 500 people ahead of you. That's the same for everybody, not just me. That's the same, isn't it?
And that's your balance now, isn't it? How much do you give to show business and how much do you give to your family? Because you are the queen of ITV right now. Let's face it. If there's a show going, they probably want you to present it. And it's a question of what do you say yes to and what do you say no to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I go with gut instinct on a lot of things, actually. There are some things you think, yeah, that's not really for me, or would I watch that myself? You know, that sort of thing. But I've been very... For instance, you know, Mr. and Mrs. is a Christmas special we're about to record, and that... I wasn't sure that... I thought, gosh, Mr. and Mrs. has come along, and then Philip said to me, but it'll be fantastic. You know, yes, it will, won't it? We've had a great time doing the first series, so we've got the Christmas special, and then the second series coming in the spring. And for me, that's really good fun. That's a little bit of icing on the cake. It's lovely.
And you seem to be able to take liberties with these people to get them to reveal stuff that they would never reveal either on This Morning or to me or to anybody else.
I know. Isn't that extraordinary? It's a chat. It's actually a good conversation show dressed up as a game show, and people reveal the most extraordinary things. Michael Howard, for instance, you know, he was the leader of the Tory party, revealed that he needs to get up in the night for a wee. And you think that's lovely. Why didn't he say that when he had some proper power? And we might have thought, oh, he's all right.
Exactly. Somebody might have voted for him. All right, we'll take another piece of music and then we'll start the interview. You must stop doing this because we're wasting too much time. We've got to start talking about you.
Sorry, Alex.
And what is interesting, I can imagine you writing it because it's as if you speak it, if you know what I'm saying. It's incredibly honest and real, and there are moments where you go, ooh, that must have hurt to reveal. Why did you want to write the book in the beginning? Because you didn't need to.
Yeah, I was asked to write. I've been asked to write the book for 2 or 3 years, and I kept saying no. And then a lady who I've never met, never had any dealings with, she's never interviewed me to my knowledge, put a book out about me and has become apparently some sort of expert. Well, the book is full of nonsense. Perfectly nice book, but very, sweet. But not true at all, none of it. And I thought, well, that's not nice. And then I was asked again to write it, and I said no again. And then I was asked again, and I thought, actually, this will put the children through university. So I thought, okay, that's what I'll do. So I sat down and I met a fantastic woman, and she and I together wrote this, argued about it, argued what should go in, what shouldn't go in. She encouraged me to be much more open. We wrote passages together. She'd rewrite mine and then I'd reinstate mine. But she was very good because I only started it at the beginning of this year. March, April. And with work as well, I wouldn't have had time to deliver it when I had to, which was in September. So I was very grateful to be working with her, and we're great mates, very great mates.
I don't know about you, but this time of year, everybody's available. I think there's something like 250 books out this autumn, and you're one of them. When you decided to write the book, what made you think that it'd jump off the shelf quicker than the other 250? Did you have something in mind? Because let's face it, everybody's got a story, and everybody's trying to sell it today, aren't they?
No, the only thing I had in mind was this might pay for the university fees. No, I mean, actually, I have to say I'm not much of an egotist, and I find it embarrassing when people go, oh, look, it's going really well, and I'm not very good at that. And so yesterday I was told that actually it's going very well and it's going up in the charts, and I haven't quite got my head around that. And then I had a talk to myself last night. Do you talk to yourself?
All the time.
It's good, isn't it? Just sit down and have a little chat with yourself. And I thought, come on, enjoy this. This is incredible. And it's a story that I wanted to tell, and a story I needed to tell, actually. And I'm really happy with the way the book's turned out.
Do you think you deserve your success? Because having read this book, as I say, you've had good times and bad times, and you've had an incredible amount of success recently. Do you think that it's all been worthwhile and it's worth going through all that, and you now deserve the position you're in?
Again, I don't think I'm in any position. I started out in television by accident. Well, not by accident, actually. I was working in the theatre, and I was trained to be a stage manager, and I worked in theatre for 2 or 3 years, and then I applied for a job in television anywhere. So I wrote to everybody, all the radio television stations. And to cut a long story short, I took a job at Westwood Television in Plymouth and became their continuity announcer, the person who says, oh, now here's Coronation Street, or opens up the station in the morning and says, this is Westwood Television broadcasting to you from the transmitters of the Independent Television Authority, and all that, you see. And I loved it, and I thought, God, this is a good job, and I've never been ambitious in that sense, and I've enjoyed a job, and when I haven't enjoyed the job anymore is when I've stopped, never expecting there to be another job, and suddenly there is another job. Ready Steady Cook I did, for instance, for oh gosh, I don't know, a long time, 6 or 7 years. I think I did in total about 1,000 shows, which included live shows. I probably did about 700 recorded television ones and 300 live shows. And then I got to the point where I thought, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And I finished. And I had nothing to go to, and everybody thought I was bonkers. Within a week, This Morning telephoned. Incredible. And then This Morning I've always adored and watched and loved with Richard and Judy. And I always thought, that's the show for me. That's what I'm built for. But it's never going to be mine because Richard and Judy will never leave. Ha-ha! They left! So, and I was just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So I'm very grateful for everything I've had, everything I've been given, and the fun of doing one of the best and biggest live shows on television. It's like being a disc jockey on This Morning. I mean, it's that varied, but it's on telly.
And it's live, and it's far different to pre-record because it would be more polished and therefore it'd lose its heart, wouldn't it?
Polished? What are you saying? It's not polished. Yes, we have a few ragged edges. Sometimes, actually, we had a funny moment when we were going through and we had a note from upstairs from the bosses saying, "Can you make it look more live?" I think, golly, you must think this looks very smooth. Good.
What did you do, fall off your chair or something?
Absolutely, with hysteria. Absolutely.
Were you born with this delicious voice, or has this been manufactured? How did you do this?
No, this is my voice. I think when I was younger, much more clipped, I think there was a lot of Lady Diana about. And, we were taught to do received pronunciation, RP, but this is me, yeah.
And then the rejection letters that you put in the book, I really enjoyed, because we've all had those. Anybody in this business has had a million people tell you that you're pathetic and talentless and you'll never make it and go somewhere else. And you're right, you can have 50,000 of those and one that says yes, and that's all that matters.
Yes, and also, on the other hand, if you have 100 letters saying you're great and one that says you're rubbish, it'll be the one that says rubbish that will keep you awake for a month. You know, why do we do that? Why are we neurotic and paranoid? But we are. Useless.
And then we go back to the beginning and we look at your theatre days. Did that go well for you or didn't it? I can't really judge from the book whether you enjoyed it as much as you enjoyed being on the telly. It's far more disciplined, isn't it? And it's not really you. You're doing somebody else.
Well, when I was in the theatre, being a stage manager was very good for me because I am an organiser, I am maternal, actors and actresses need looking after, and I'm very good at looking after people. Not so good at being looked after myself. So I did enjoy it very much. I enjoyed the life on the road. I enjoyed that whole grease paint and theatre skips and fun enormously. And it's a young person's game, and I really had a ball. But there comes a point when you get fed up living out of a suitcase and getting threepence halfpenny a week, and also living on late night Indian curries and too much whiskey. And
we're back with Fern Britton on your favourite local radio station and talking about your life and your career. And the one thing that comes throughout this book is your love for family. And in the beginning that was difficult because you had a dad who was amazing, talented, brilliant, but a huge star, which meant for a lot of the time he wasn't there for you in the early days.
No, he wasn't. Yes, people always say to me, "Oh, how's your dad? Yeah, I bet you had fun with your dad," and da-da-da-da-da. And yes, I love my dad, and yes, he's great fun. But he wasn't there when when I was born. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but my parents did separate and finally divorce, and so I don't remember growing up with him at all. And it was only really when I was a teenager that we connected again, and properly connected when I was about 18. So I know him now as a man who happens to be my father. But it's actually a very good relationship because it means that he can't do the whole dad thing, like you're not going out like that. Not that he'd say that to me now. But and I can see him as a human being rather than a dad, which is really good.
How have you not become bitter by the fact that you didn't have a dad for the first 15 years of your life? Did you have any problem dealing with that, or did you just think, well, actually, it's who he was, this is the life I was dealt, and I've got to get on with it?
When you are a child, you know no different, and so it didn't feel different at all, except that I knew that everyone at school had a dad, and they always came to sports day, and they'd be in the Father's Day race, and dads would be there at the birthday parties, and dads would do this, that and the other, and I didn't have that. And actually, as I got older and became a parent myself, it's when you are a parent that suddenly you're transported back to childhood and think, oh yeah, I remember that was a bit difficult, and yeah, that made me feel a bit sad, so I'll try not to do that to my kids. So, you know, and then of course, unfortunately, I was divorced from my first husband, and I could have done that to my children, but so I made sure it was quite different, and they see their father constantly, and they speak on the phone every single day. And fortunately as well, Phil and the children have a great relationship, and sometimes they will tell him things that they won't tell me, and that's very good that they confide. So I'm sure as they get older they'll say to me, "Oh, you screwed me up," which is their, right to say that, and probably it's a parent's role, I don't know. But I think they're all right. I hope so.
Isn't it a bit miserable now that we're kind of trained to resent the bad things that our parents did to us, and we almost forget the great things? It seems like we are more considered than we used to be. We kind of resent stuff far greater than we did in the old days when we get on with it.
Yeah, I think the generation before me knew how to just endure and get on with it. And I think perhaps in our 21st century we are a bit too touchy-feely, navel-gazing. I'm guilty of it, we all are. But there was something very stoical about the people in the generations before us, during the war, during the First War, during Victorian and beyond, back and back and back. And people accepted that they'd lose children to some disease, accepted that they'd be killed, accepted that they would die young. And now we cling to life. Give me those pills, give me that medicine, this shouldn't happen, that shouldn't, which is right as well. But we see death in a different way. We see our finiteness in a different way. We want to be infinite, don't we? But we can't be.
We're back on your favourite local radio station with Fern Britton, who is just marvellous. She's one of the country's greats at the moment and taken to people's hearts. And in this new book, you talk about all kinds of things. And one of the things that's been in the papers lately has been the depression you went through. And you've come out the other side, and now you're trying to help people with it. When you are depressed and you're in that state, you're clearly not as rational as you are sat here now. Did you know you were depressed, or did you just think something was wrong?
I think, looking back, I've had depression since I was a teenager. It was first diagnosed when I was 18, because it's something that's with you all the time. Sometimes it's a long way away, but you can just see it on the horizon, and sometimes it's right on you. So it's one of those, for me, my depression is sort of part of me and always just there humming away in the background. I've written about it and tried to describe it as best as I can, to share with people. I'm not saying I'm going to get out there and be an evangelist and try and help people, because I don't understand it myself, and I struggle myself as well sometimes. So it's only there to share it and to hope that other people might say to me, God, I have that too. Or people who say thank you because now I understand what this is. And the worst thing about it is when your life is brilliant. I've had the worst depression when tremendously happily married, money in the bank, gorgeous career, healthy children. So pull yourself together. And those words, you can't do it. You just can't do it. You have to wait for the cloud to pass. And once it passes, you can understand and be rational again. But while it's happening, not to be able to feel any joy or happiness or look forward to anything is so crippling. It's terrible.
So do you think you're born with this then? This is something like a disability where it's always there, and it's just whether you can keep it in check in that moment?
I don't know whether I was born with it. I do believe that it can pass through generations and perhaps is genetic or hereditary. I wish I knew. I don't know, Alex. All I know is that when I've got it, when I'm in the grip of it, and it lasts for months and months and months. I don't self-medicate because my doctor helps me, and she's always regulating me and seeing me how I am. Sometimes I don't see her for a couple of years. Sometimes I'm there a couple of weeks going, I don't know what to do with myself. And she'll go, well, do you know what you need to do? So I do take medication, and it's like carrying a little black fog in the pit of your stomach, which is there, tiny, and then as the days go by, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it just envelops you and cloaks you, and then you realise, oops, it's back. And the only way I can do it nowadays is not to be scared of it, but to embrace it and let it happen to me, and then let it pass through. It's not something you can turn your back on and run away from, and that's the only way I can deal with it. And to tell people, say, I'm really in a bad space, I'm sorry I'm being a moaner, I'm sorry I'm not very good company, it might last a little while, I don't know.
And has writing the book and talking to people like me help with this, or does it make it more difficult?
No, it's helped a lot, I'm glad to be. I've never hidden it anyway, I've talked about it quite a lot. But no, I'm quite happy to talk about it. I don't believe there's any stigma attached, I don't think so.
How does it feel when you walk along an aisle and you see your face there and there and there and on the front page of this, that and the other, and it's stuff that you can't control? It probably isn't true. There might be a scintilla of truth in it somewhere, and you just want to say to everybody, look, that's not me, that's not the person I am, but you're powerless because this is the game you're in.
Yeah, yes, Alex, you're absolutely right. That is an odd one. Particularly when you don't expect to see your face on something, and when the car turns up in the morning and I've got a couple of newspapers in the car and you see yourself on the front page, or you're just reading it merrily, turning the pages, and suddenly you come to a 2-page spread saying that you've done something or other, and it is a shock. And I have to separate the two people, that is me and the other one who's the other me, who is the working one. And if I can give the other working one that to worry about, the one that I go home with doesn't worry about it. And it has taken me by surprise, and it has knocked the wind out of my sails occasionally when you see such incredible nonsense that's written. I mean, recently there was stuff saying that I'd sneaked abroad for my gastric band operation. No, I'd gone down the road to the local hospital. That I was now so weak and feeble and malnourished that every 6 weeks I have vitamin injections. I live solely on chocolate and broth. I don't see my children even an inch as much as I like the world to think. That Phil and I haven't slept together for 5 years, and that he has had to keep stopping his business to look after me because I am so difficult to live with. Now, when you hear all of that, you do... Oh, and I think I've had my boobs done and all sorts of things. And my daughter comes home and she says, "Mummy, a lady at school today said that you've had your breasts done. What does that mean?" I said, "Well, have a look at them. Do they look as if they, she says, no." And so she's very funny now, and then she laughs. She says to me, "Shall I get you some broth?" I say, "Yeah, get me some broth." So all of that is just stupid. But as I said to you earlier, the woman who wrote a whole book about me, you get used to it.
If it's professional stuff, is that easier to deal with than the personal stuff about your physicality or your relationship with your husband?
I've never had anything written about me that's been about my professional life. I always had people, even reviewers, don't necessarily say how I did the job, or if they do, they say I was rubbish, but they will talk about how I looked. So you're either too fat, too thin, your hair's stupid. And you think, golly, can you get past this? If you wrote that about a man, again, I don't want to be a feminist harpy, but not that all feminists are harpies. I have to just, you know what I'm trying to say. A man would be reviewed for his work, not the suit and tie he was wearing. So I find that rather wearisome as well, because I hope I've done a good job over the last 29 years. Alex, I've given up trying to understand any of it. I just think, no, get up, go to work, do the job, don't complain, come home, feed the kids, go to bed. That's it.
I want to come back next in our remaining moments and talk about you, the interviewer, because that's where you're at your best, and we'll do it next on your favourite local radio station. We're back with our remaining moments with Fern Britton, who is one of my favourite people because I learned so much from watching you and Philip, and you might think that's odd. When you've got people like the McCanns on, or Kerry Katona a few weeks ago, or the Prime Minister, and you're live, you really get to see how good you are as an interviewer, because it's easy to get flustered. Do you look forward to those moments? Because it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I do look forward to those interviews. You see, the interesting thing about interviews are some of them you think, wow, this is going to be tough, and actually it cruises along. And others that you think, oh, this will be a piece of cake, suddenly turns into something extraordinary. Kerry Katona, for instance, when she came in a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, now I think the world of her. She's a very good-hearted girl. And I only know her professionally through television, which doesn't mean to say that we're friends at all. But I've met her many times, and each time she's incredibly generous of spirit and everything else. A very nice, warm girl who's had a horrible time since she was little. And when she came in the other day and was clearly not right, and I don't know what it is, whether it was her medication, whatever it is, she just wasn't Kerry. And that interview took us all by surprise, all three of us, me, Philip and Kerry. Suddenly we found ourselves, we didn't expect this at all. We were going to be talking about your new figure and the future, and suddenly we're in a difficult space. And I'm still uncertain about how I feel about that, except I just feel tremendous compassion for her. And if I were able to be her mum or a close friend, I would try and look after her and put her in a safe place.
When you sit there and you look into her eyes and you see all that going on in front of you, you must know that this is going to hit the headlines and it's all going to start again for her and for you.
Yes, although I didn't think about that at that particular moment. You just, everything retreats. Suddenly you're not in a studio. There aren't people watching. There aren't cameras looking at you. You're suddenly in front of a person who's in trouble. And what do you do? What do you do? You want to help her. And you could see that, she was defensive and vulnerable. And by the way, there was no punch-up afterwards. Mark has said that as well. The papers reported that Mark and Philip came to blows or something. Mark actually was way out of the way anyway. But I don't know what the truth is, so I won't say any more, except that this is a girl who my heart goes out to.
You made me cry the other week. I was watching you in a hotel room and you had the parents of the 2 boys who had died in the car crash with a footballer. There's no joy whatsoever in having to do those interviews, are there?
No, there isn't. No. And sometimes some interviews like that you think, should we be doing this? But those parents have got a story to tell and a message to get out there. And if it means that another child is saved because somebody thinks twice about having an extra drink before they get in the car, or anything to drink before they get into a car, which is what they'd like, 0 alcohol if you're driving, which I go along with, it's going to help. And it makes you go home and hug your own child just that bit tighter.
If it hadn't been you and Philip, it wouldn't have worked as well, and that's because you're parents, isn't it? And you're never allowing the showbiz to take over the reality that there's 2 people who've lost 2 of their children that they'll never recover from. Well,
that's very sweet of you. I think it's the strength of this programme and the history of this programme as well. You know, Richard and Judy did exactly the same. And that's our duty of interviewing. We are not news. I think we're under a heading of current affairs on this morning, but I'm not quite sure. We're sort of current affairs, we're leisure, we're magazine, we're lifestyle, we're, everything. And I hope that people trust us when they're watching an interview like that. I hope that viewers trust us to know that we won't overstep the mark, that we won't do anything gratuitous. And it's wonderful that those parents and other people who come in with very difficult stories to tell trust us enough to come on the show, and that's the compliment. And as human beings, we need to share our experiences and learn and make sure it never happens again.
And the bit of the programme I saw after that, you could tell you were both affected. There's no way you could come off the back of that, go into a commercial break and come back smiling and singing. That would be inappropriate. But there are moments on This Morning which are legendary, and they're your calling card, the minutes where you just can't keep it together.
No, and it's the most ridiculous things that's funny, because a team suddenly think, this will make them laugh, and so they write some funny stuff in the script and we read it, go, yeah. And then it's some stupid word. Some really stupid word that does it to us. Or a guest comes in with a silly name. That's useless. Or they speak and they've got a funny voice. Useless. I mean, thankfully, it's never a serious interview. But it's tricky. And Philip's naughty because if he's going to laugh, he starts to lean against me. and I'm usually pretty good at not going. But then when you go, it's just useless.
We've got a real problem. I've got another hour of questions for you, but we're out of time.
I'm sorry. Is there anything you'd like to ask that you haven't? Look at your list.
I don't know. I've got a few things here. Well, let's talk about
this one if you like. Go on.
Let's talk about the gastric band then, because this is a thing that everybody was talking about. Do you think that the reaction to it was totally out of perspective? Because I do. It was ridiculous. It was as if you were the biggest news story in the world, and actually it was just you making a personal decision.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, I was completely taken aback, and the reason I didn't tell anybody about it was twofold. One, this is a confidential medical procedure, not done out of vanity, but done for medical reasons. I couldn't just go and ask for this to be done. You have to have a doctor say, you need to have this. That's the first thing. In fact, there are laws against it. You don't have to reveal anything like that. Secondly, I wanted to have time to see if it worked, because I didn't know whether it was going to work or not. And amazingly, because I worked incredibly hard with the surgeon and with my nutritionist, it comes in the whole package. Because also I knew that I was going to head for costing the NHS a lot of money, because suddenly you're going to be diabetic, heart disease, whatever. So I paid for this myself. The package comes with the surgeon, the nutritionist stroke dietitian, and a full aftercare package for a year. So I was very well looked after, exercising like mad, cycling my bloody socks off, and it worked. And for some people it doesn't work as well as it worked for me. I didn't know it would work this well. And then the news broke, and of course I was called a liar and cheat, and my children found that very hard. And Who did I lie to? What did I lie about? I didn't lie. That I was a cheat? No, I wasn't in any dieting competition with anybody, so I wasn't cheating. But the papers were annoyed that I hadn't told them.
They just wanted a story. A few quick questions about it. Are you okay now? Are you in any discomfort?
No, there's no discomfort. Everything's fine. And you can eat everything. I eat everything, drink everything, but just in smaller quantities. It will be there. I have no plans to take it out because it's there and you don't want to be operated again unless you need another operation. So it's there unless there's complications.
And I hope I'm going to interview you again because it's been a lot of fun. Are you going to be invisible the next time I see you because you'll be so slim?
No, because it stops. You know, you reach the point where it's doing its job and keeps you steady and level. And that's what's happened now. And I'm very, very grateful. And it's lovely to have... now my cycling muscles on my thighs, now my thighs have got slimmer, you can actually see my muscles, so I'm feeling very good.
And I think it's very easy for all these journalists to write things and say things. I was a fat child, and it never leaves you. You're always clinically obese in your own mind. It is a mental illness because you're just completely preoccupied all the time. And if you can do this to make yourself slimmer and healthier for your children and your family, that's really what it's about.
Well, the health issue came first. Am I happier this size than I was before? No. Am I feeling better about myself this size than I was before? No. Do I enjoy buying clothes now? Yes! And that really was the biggest thing, apart from the fact that I've obviously done my health a lot of good, which is the important thing. But the spurious, just ridiculous bit of puff on the side is that I can go and buy clothes. And that is really good fun. I've
loved the interview. You're such a big star, and everybody loves you. You're just warm and friendly, and you can't fake that, certainly as long as you've been doing it. You've got a massive career ahead of you, and what a past it's been. If you want to read about it, it's in the new book, Fern, which is in your stores now. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Alex, bless you. I love you.